12 leaf symptoms. One misread and the plant dies. Most people get them wrong because they treat what they see, not what it means. That brown tip you cut off yesterday? Still there. The yellow leaf you pulled? Already being replaced by 3 more? The white powder you wiped away? Back by tomorrow. These are not random misfortunes. Every single symptom on a plant leaf is a precise, readable signal, a message encoded in biology that tells you exactly what is happening beneath the surface, inside the roots, inside the cells. The problem is that most of us were never taught to read it. We see brown and panic. We see yellow and grab fertilizer. We see wilting and water immediately. And in doing so, we often do the exact opposite of what the plant needs. This is the guide that changes that. 12 symptoms, the real science behind each one, and the exact fix for every single one of them. Brown tips. The most misunderstood symptom in all of houseplant care. Brown tips are almost never caused by disease. They are not a sign that something is attacking your plant from the outside. They are a sign of something failing on the inside, specifically a gap between how fast the plant is losing water and how fast its roots can replace it. The scientific term is transpirational stress. Plants lose water constantly through tiny pores in their leaves called stomata. Under normal conditions, the roots absorb water from the soil at roughly the same rate it evaporates from the leaves. When that balance breaks, when the air is too dry, the soil too depleted, or dry air from a heating vent is blowing directly onto the foliage, the leaf edges are the first casualties. Those cells sit furthest from the plant's vascular system. They are the last to receive water and the first to die when supply runs short. Here is what most people do not know. Once a tip turns brown, it does not recover. Ever. The cells are dead. Cutting the brown portion off changes nothing about the underlying problem. Your plant will simply produce new brown tips on new leaves until you fix the actual cause. The fix: check 3 things in order. First, humidity. Most tropical houseplants want 50% or above. A cheap hygrometer will tell you what your room actually sits at. Second, watering consistency, not frequency, consistency. Letting soil dry completely between waterings is fine for some plants and fatal for others. Know your species. Third, airflow. Move the plant away from any heating vents, air conditioning units, or fans blowing directly onto the leaves. Yellow leaves, lower half. Only this one causes more unnecessary panic than almost anything else in plant care. When only the bottom leaves of a plant yellow while the upper leaves remain green and healthy, the plant is not sick. It is doing something entirely deliberate. It is recycling. Plants cannot manufacture nitrogen from nothing. They have a fixed supply, and as a plant grows and pushes energy into new growth at the top, it begins pulling nitrogen out of its oldest, least productive leaves, the ones at the bottom, and redirecting it upward. Those stripped leaves yellow and drop. This process is called senescence, and it happens in virtually every plant species on the planet, from your kitchen windowsill pothos to ancient forest trees. The confusion is understandable. Yellow reads as a warning sign, but context is everything. How to tell the difference? If the yellowing is gradual, affects only 1 or 2 lower leaves at a time, and the rest of the plant looks vigorous and healthy, there is nothing to fix. Remove the yellow leaves cleanly and move on. However, if the yellowing is spreading upward rapidly, affecting multiple leaves at once, or accompanied by soft stems or a foul smell from the soil, that is a different situation entirely. That points to overwatering, root rot, or a genuine nitrogen deficiency. Each of those has a different fix, which is why reading the full picture matters. Yellow leaves, entire plant. When yellowing appears across the whole plant simultaneously, the roots are almost certainly involved. Overwatering is the most frequent cause, but the mechanism is one that most people find genuinely surprising. The plant is not drowning, it is suffocating. When soil stays saturated for too long, the air pockets between soil particles, the ones roots depend on for oxygen, fill with water and collapse. Root cells cannot absorb oxygen. Without oxygen, they cannot function. They begin to die, and a dead root cannot transport water or nutrients upward. no matter how much moisture surrounds it. The leaves yellow because chlorophyll production shuts down when the supply chain fails. This is why plants that are being overwatered often look exactly like plants that are being underwatered, because in both cases the leaves are not getting what they need. The roots are just failing for opposite reasons. The fix: stop watering immediately. Allow the soil to dry out significantly. If the problem is advanced, unpot the plant and inspect the roots. Healthy roots are white or light tan and firm. Rotting roots are brown or black, soft, and often smell unpleasant. Cut away everything that is compromised, treat remaining roots with diluted hydrogen peroxide, and repot in fresh, dry, well-draining substrate. Leaves curling inward. When leaves curl along their length, rolling their edges toward the upper surface, the plant is not damaged, it is defending itself. This is a controlled physiological response to water loss. By curling inward, the leaf reduces its total exposed surface area, which slows the rate at which moisture evaporates. The plant is essentially making itself smaller to survive. The most common triggers are underwatering, very high temperatures, and extremely low humidity. Some tropical species, particularly thin-leaved varieties, can look severely wilted and curled within a single dry afternoon and recover completely within hours of being watered. The speed of the response can be alarming if you have not seen it before. The key diagnostic test: water the plant thoroughly and observe what happens over the next 4 to 6 hours. If the curl reverses, the problem was water deficit and you have solved it. If the leaves remain curled despite adequate watering, root damage may already be preventing uptake. In that case, treat it as a root problem rather than a watering problem. Leaves curling downward. Downward curling, when leaf edges roll under toward the bottom of the leaf, looks similar to inward curling but has a fundamentally different cause and requires the opposite response. The most frequent culprit is overfertilization, specifically excess nitrogen. When a plant receives more nitrogen than it can process, it pushes out rapid, soft new growth that its leaf structure cannot fully support. The edges curl downward under their own weight. Heat stress in certain species can produce the same response. This distinction is critical. If you misread downward curl as underwatering and add water, you change nothing. If you add fertilizer, you make it significantly worse. The fix: stop fertilizing immediately. Flush the soil thoroughly with plain water. Run water through the pot slowly and repeatedly to dilute and drain excess salts and nutrients from the substrate. Hold off on any feeding for at least 4 to 6 weeks and observe new growth. It should emerge flatter and firmer once nitrogen levels normalize. Dark brown or black spots with yellow halos. This specific combination, a dark spot surrounded by a ring of yellow tissue, is the signature of a fungal infection, and the yellow halo is not random discoloration, it is a battle line. The yellow tissue marks the boundary between the infected dying cells at the center and the living cells the plant is actively attempting to defend. The fungus is advancing, the plant is pushing back. The halo is where that conflict is happening in real time. Fungal infections spread through water, specifically through water sitting on leaf surfaces. Splashing during overhead watering, high humidity combined with poor air circulation, and leaves touching each other in damp conditions all create ideal conditions for spore germination and spread. The fix: the most important change is not reaching for a fungicide. It is changing your watering method. Water at the base of the plant only, never overhead. Improve air circulation around the plant. Remove all affected leaves immediately and dispose of them away from other plants. Do not compost them. Infected leaves do not heal. The spots expand until the leaf dies. Catching it early and removing affected tissue is the most effective intervention available.